to my friend Mary Grunhouse. A lot of you know her. She's my soul sister that introduced me to Aliza. About, I think it was 2.5 years ago, she said to me, Makana, you need to meet Aliza Bulow. I'm not going to say more. I said, if you say that, Mary, I'm going to believe that she's special. And I interviewed her on my podcast for 2.5 hours. And it was like, wow. And then I'm like, okay, I need more of Aliza. That's just like the tip of the iceberg. So my big hakarat tov is to Hashem, that opened so many doors for me to meet incredible people like Penny and Aliza. Aliza is my mentor. I call her my mentor. She doesn't even know that. But like, I really look up to her as, she doesn't like the word leader, but I'm going to use it. Like, I follow her like she's my leader, but she makes you feel like she's itaf, together. And such a special soul. What she's trying to do now and she's accomplishing is unbelievable. Project Core that she's going to explain because I'm going to take away from the awesomeness of it. And when I met Penny, my cousin is Abigail Popko, Alea Shalom, and we started learning with her brother, and my cousin Avramari teaches us, and then we became like chabrutas kind of thing, and I said, Penny, Aliza is your second half soul. I'm telling you, there's two of you in the world you have to meet. And last time when I was in Boca, I said, okay, we have to bring Aliza here. We have to meet her panim, not just listen to her podcast. And we said, okay, let's not only share Aliza with Penny, let's share her with all of you. And her wisdom, it's true authenticity, Ahavat Hashem. Like really, like walking with Hashem in a way that you can't find a lot like that in the world nowadays. And that you cannot find many that walk with Hashem like Aliza does. And I always say she can write 7 books, and each one will be a different subject completely and will relate to so many people. So I'm happy that during the 9 days we can be inspired by Aliza.
Thank you. Okay, so for my hakarat too, thank you so much, Matana. And I have really enjoyed getting to know Matana and my family. And it's been so nice to be here with you and Penny and your husband. I've heard so many great stories. And just like and to see the RS Shul and to meet Rabbi Goldberg this morning and hear his share. And thank you for coming. So, okay, so what I want to share, 9 days and strengthening our core. No, it's not an exercise class. I like to joke that my favorite exercise is turning pages and chewing. Right, so it's a different kind of core that I want to strengthen here, and I just want to share with you where are Jewish women headed and how will we think about who we are. We're all women here. This was open to men and women, I see, but I guess more women want to hear about this. So a long time ago, I lived in Long Beach, Long Island, and I had my 6 kids in 7.5 years. And my husband was a lawyer in Manhattan. And I'm trying to figure out how I can assist, income-wise, and yet I have my pack of small children, so I babysat. And I babysat for one family, a divorced mom, and she had basically Irish twins, too. They were 10 months apart, these 2 kids. One was the age of my youngest, and one was younger. So I got a toddler and a baby, and I babysat for them every day from 6 a.m. till about 6:30 p.m. Yeah, she would drop them off dressed and as babies, and then I would feed them all day, take care of them, give them back when she came back from work, took the train to the city. And then as they got a little bit older, she'd drop them off dressed with their lunches made, and I'd put them on the bus, take them off the bus, have them do their homework, and she'd pick them up. Right? And I thought to myself, as my parents got divorced when I was 11 and a half, 12, and I was back and forth between houses. And then I went to Israel when I was 16. So I had my own house and I was like done with all that transfer stuff, like start my own life. But I thought to myself, as I received these little children into my life, they're never going to know the sorrow of divorce because they never knew their parents married. So it will never be a problem for them, I thought, as a young, whatever I was, probably still in my 20s. And then as they got a little bit older and they were old enough to go to their father every other Shabbos, so she dropped them off Friday morning. And the older one would get on the bus, and my kids got on the bus, and I had the youngest one with me, and she would sit on my lap and cry and cry. because she knew her father was picking her up that afternoon and not her mother. And I thought, these are tears of divorce. Like, she doesn't even know what her parents weren't together when she was born, right? She was conceived in that marriage, but then born after the divorce. So like, she never knew from the marriage, and yet she's crying tears of divorce without even knowing what it was that she's missing. And I feel like that's us here in the 9 days. Like, we're trying to miss the Beis Hamikdash, and we don't even know what we're crying over. Like, we don't know, we feel something's missing, but we don't even know what it is, right? There's something not right. And she was sitting there crying in my lap, knowing something's not right, but not even knowing what it was that she didn't have. So 2 years ago, COVID, making a Seder, just the two of us. I was used to hosting 30. We became the place, all of our kids would come with their kids, and my husband's siblings and my husband's mother. We had 4-generation Seder. And for a while, my father-in-law also came until he passed away, but like, we had the 4 generations, and it was like an amazing thing to be able to host the whole thing. And now we're making a Seder, just the two of us. And it was hard. I'm busy I run networks of women all around the world, and everybody's saying, how do we include the older adults in this Pesach? And everybody's talking about sharing pictures and Seder tables with the pictures around the table. And all of a sudden, in the mail, I get a book, a Haggadah for my children, that they had coordinated, Snapfish book, with all the grandchildren, all for the different stages of the Seder. They all took pictures for all the different pictures. And I'm like, we're the older people that they're trying to include. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy helping everybody else. And I forgot, we're alone for the Seder. And we have this picture book of all our grandchildren to turn the pages with all the Simanei HaSeder, but we're alone for the Seder. And we had gotten used to alone for Shabbos, but alone for the Seder is a different thing, especially when you're hosting everything. Although I must say, I really loved not taking out everything and putting away everything. I just draped tablecloths over half the kitchen. It was amazing, and it's a lot easier to put away. I'll take back all the guests, but I did actually really appreciate that part. But one of the things I got to do, because there was less cooking and less preparing, was read more Rav Hirsch. I love Rav Hirsch, and so I'm reading about the Seder and how it's such an important time, and it's the Jewish home, and the Jewish home is the essence of everything. And I'm thinking, yes, it is. And COVID, everything else is shut down except for the Jewish home. Here we are in the Jewish home, and then I'm thinking about the transference generation to generation, and I'm thinking I'm 58 now. I was 57. I'm thinking I'm 57, and I still come from a broken home. Even though I made a home, but my parents are still divorced. Not that I expected them to ever get back together, but that the effect of the home is the core of a person, whatever it is, whole, broken, dotted lines, healthy, not healthy, different parts of healthiness. There still is something about the home that influences who you are forever. And I wanted to not feel that, I left home at 16. I made my own life. I set up my own home. I made my marriage what I wanted to. We're about to celebrate 37 years, and I was so clear, I am not doing my parents did. I'm going to do, and here I am doing it, and I'm still their child. And just coming into recognition of that, what does that mean to have something behind you, and how you build forward, and who you are, and what's at the core of who we are. This summer, I led a tour of our neighborhood in Denver. Our neighborhood is the 130-year-old neighborhood, and Jews came for many different reasons to Denver, and I happen to have studied some of those reasons. I'm a little bit of a geek, and I made a whole history hike. I had a few conferences to start the organization that I was starting, and I invited people, and I sent them in different directions on this history hike through our neighborhood to see the old yeshiva building and the new yeshiva building, and this old shul, and that mikvah, and the Beis Yaakov, and the kollel, and what we have in our neighborhood. And I live in Rabbi Shlomo Tursky's house. Shlomo Tursky is the brother of Michal Tursky and Avram Tursky, so it's a historic house. He died younger. So Rabbi Shlomo Tursky, I love Shlomo, he was the father of Miriam Lowenbraun, Aleh Shalom, also who was one of my mentors in my life. So I love living in that house. But anyway, so somebody called and said, we're bringing our young professionals, our YJPs, young Jewish professionals. Let's talk into this, YPs, YJPs. Right? bringing some YJPs from New Jersey. Would you give them a talk? I'm like, sure. They said, just say, can you come and give a talk wherever we're staying? And I'm like, nope, I'm not. If you're coming, you're bringing your YJPs to Denver, Colorado. I'm not driving to the other side of the city, first of all, because I'm busy, but second of all, so that you should get a class that you could get in New Jersey. Come to the west side of Denver, and you'll see something Denverish. I'll give you a tour of the old west side of Denver. I had in mind what I wanted to do with these YJPs. So, and they're all in their, mid-20s, not early 20s. Like they all need to get married to each other, right, this group. So they come and I take them on the history hike, and it's hot, it's the summertime. And I take them to the old yeshiva, and I show them the mikvah, and I take them to the new yeshiva, and I let them look down the street so they could see the Capitol building with its gold dome, because the Jews came for the gold rush, not to mine the gold, but to mine the miners, right? So set up the stores that supported the miners, and whatever I showed, and the shul, and this is the last shul, and our shul has a special, it was designed by Rabbi Tversky, and it has 7 heavens going up, which I never could count. I knew it had 7. It had 7 layers to the 7 heavens. I was like, how does it? I've counted so many times and I can only get to 6. I'm like, where is the 7th one? It had like a beehive shape. Fortunately, the rabbi was in, he was writing a get that day. So he invited all the YJPs in to see the quill that he was using and the get that he was writing. And he talked to them about it. And he said, let me show you our shul and the 7 heavens. I'm like, finally. It's like the floor is number 1. I'm like, oh, I didn't count the floor. And then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And see how it's built that way? That looks like Jacob's ladder going up to the heaven. I was like, I didn't even know that. And he said, and if you stand in the middle, do you see what it is? It's a Jewish star all around you, and we're in the center of it. I was like, I didn't even know that about our shul. What a beautiful tour that was for them to see. And then I brought them home and gave them ice pops and muffins. And I wrote on the wall a big piece of paper. I said, okay, what did we see? Okay. We saw the mikvah, and we saw the shul, and we saw the Beis Yaakov, and we saw the yeshiva. And what do all these institutions do? They're all trying to help us connect to Hashem and go up, right? So I drew lines up. That's on a piece of paper. So I said, and they all want to help us elevate. But which institution is the most important one? So shul, mikvah, Beis Yaakov, yeshiva, which is the most important institution? Okay, mikvah, right? So I said that's the foundation, right? Are the mikvah and the educational institutions. So now I have lines like this going up to Shemayim. So, but the most important institution is the Jewish home. That's why I wanted to start and end the tour here. Here we are in the Jewish home. There's no more important institution in the Jewish world than the Jewish home. Right? It's the foundation of it all. And the core of the Jewish home is the mother. Right? It's the mother. Right? It's the Jewish woman. Aim, Ima's Aramaic actually. Aim is Hebrew. Aleph Mem it's the Hebrew word. Im and Abba is Aramaic. So, but we say kvod av ve'aim. Those are the Hebrew words. So aim, it's a 2-letter root. It's the same root of the word emunah, because emunah is passed through the mother. It's the same root as the word oman, which is an artisan, somebody who has a craft that they've practiced well, which is what emunah is, a craft that you have to practice well. That's why the rabbi has his year on emunah. And it's something you have to learn and put into practice. Not just learning, it's the actual physical putting into practice, which is the feminine aspect, is the bringing it into existence, putting it into practice. So we have this partnership, this relationship between masculine energy and feminine energy, and it has to be a partnership. You have to have both, but the feminine energy is bringing it into existence. So we have this 4-letter name of Hashem, the Yud, and the Hey, and the Vav, and the Hey, and they represent masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine. And the Hey here represents the actual birth canal. How do you say the letter Hey? How do you pronounce it? Exactly. Right? It doesn't have a sound, actually. It's an exhalation. It's an expression. It's just coming out. It's how Hashem made the world, through speech, flowing into the world. Right? The manifestation is that hay. So the hay is the feminine energy which brings things into existence. The masculine energy is bringing things into concept. So our Kabbalists tell us that the upper worlds were created with the letter Yud and the lower worlds are created with the letter Hey. There's a pasuk in Talmud that says, Ki v'kat sur olamim, Hashem made the worlds with the name Hashem, Yah. Right? That's the name of God, is Yud and Hey. So it could just be God made the world, or it could be the letters Yud and Hey made the world. So the upper world was made with the Yud, that's like the seed of life. Everything packed into a tiny little genetic package there, but then expressed in the Hey, the lower worlds are made with the letter Hey. So really the feminine energy is about the expression of it. So I'm thinking about masculine and feminine, what we're doing. What is the core of this whole thing? Is thinking about what does the feminine do? So I've done lots of learning about masculine energy, feminine energy, and like how do you express what it is? So I'll give you my phrase for it, and that's creating space in which others flourish. Good. Hashem.
I just realized we're on film.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You deserve it. It's your beautiful house. Whoever saw that, beautiful, wonderful hostess. Is there another chair in my garage? Oh, there's a desk chair back there too.
Oh,
Okay,
wait,
right.
you know what, not tonight. We have an office chair for that.
Okay. Okay, so creating space in which others flourish is the feminine energy. So think about what that means, to create space in which others flourish. It is a space creation. It's a type of leadership that's not a full force push forward leadership, but it's a leadership that brings others forward. So think about the difference between, let's just even say, a teacher and a librarian. Teacher stands in the front, teaches, or tells you how you should be, how you should think, what you should know, right? Whereas a librarian sits at the desk with a lot of information, and you come to her. And she's created the space in which another can flourish if she's done her job well. Right? The library is quiet, the books are in order, and she's there available as a resource. And when you come to her and say, I'm interested in biographies, she should say, what kind of biographies? Right? Do you want men? Do you want women? Do you want historic? Do you want modern? Do you want political? Do you want, what kind of biographies? And she'll help you find that. And then she'll tell you where in the card catalog. She probably shouldn't take you to find that one. She'll teach you how to find that one, right? I don't think they have card catalogs anymore, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about. You all went to school with card catalogs, right? But when you come to her and say, I'm interested in biographies, what she doesn't say is, have you thought of science fiction? Because science fiction is so much more interesting than biographies, right? That's not her job. Her job is to bring you forward and help you flourish on your journey, but she creates the space where that's going to work well. So that is the feminine energy, is doing that. Think about it physically for a woman. She creates a space in which another flourishes. That space is full of nutrients for another to flourish in. But think about a Shabbos table. Right? A well-run Shabbos table. How much work does that take? Thinking, planning, shopping, chopping, right? Baking, cooking, setting, serving. And then you pull back and everybody steps forward. There's jokes, there's songs, there's stories, there's deeper Torah, there's connections. All of that has been made possible by somebody who's created a space in which others flourish, or a well-run home. Right? A well-run home, so inviting, yummy food and comfortable chairs and a blanket draped over in case you need it, and just set up in a lovely, yummy way that others can flourish in that space. So that really is the realm that I want to be strengthening women in. How can we use who we are to strengthen the core of the Jewish people? I've been traveling for years. I was paid for 11 years to support Rebbitzins across North America. I was hired by Nerla Elef, and my whole job was to travel all across North America, meet with Rebbitzins in all kinds of places, and see what they need and help them, right? Bring them forward, support them. Really, the job was so the rabbis would stick it out in their jobs. Happy wife, happy life, right? So my job really was like Rebbitzin Petter, just like, let's keep her happy, so the guy will keep his job. But after I could do that, so then I could help the women move forward. Like, what do we need as women? And I've seen through all my travels that women need a lot. We're actually, things are frazzled a little bit in our community. And it's partly because women are we're being called upon to do a lot more than we used to do. So we're not always just there to run the home. And so many young mothers are working, almost all of them. Even if it's only part-time, it's all their discretionary time, which means that friendship time is much lower. Or friendship time is here, right? So this is like drinking salt water when you're thirsty, right? You connect on social media, and the more you connect, the thirstier you get, right? Whereas at IRL, in real life relationships, this is the way to get filled up, right? These are the connections that actually make you feel like you're part of something. And I've watched the fraying of our communal ties, family ties, because mothers are working, communal ties, because unlike Rebbitzin Goldberg, who I heard about your initial marriage proposal, I'm going to be a rabbi, and I want somebody who's committed to be a Rebbitzin. Not everybody had that conversation. And so many Rebbitzins today are doctors or dental hygienists, or they run the preschool or whatever it is, they're working. So we have this, actually as a community, we don't necessarily value female time, so we don't pay for it. We pay for that man's time, but the female Jewish time, we allow her to sell her time outside the community rather than valuing and paying for her time to be invested inside the community. So we have moms working, Rebbitzins working, and you know who else is working today? Grandmothers, right? Those of us who have like finished raising kids and now we're in our 50s and we're like, okay, now I can do what I want. Now I have my job. Now I'm founding my business. Now I'm running. Now I'm doing. And I hardly have a chance, even though I'm trying to get women to connect all over the world. Like, I have to like schedule my kids in and grandkids, and I'm so glad I'm taking 2 grandkids on a cruise next week just to like connect with those 2 10-year-olds. So, but it has to be scheduled at this point. So the feminine energy of our communities needs to be stepped up. So, and that's what I want to try to help. If we're thinking about developing. And I'm not here to sell my organization. I do have an organization that develops Jewish women. And I'll tell you about it. But I have 3 different branches that develop. So what do we develop? We're developing women. We want to develop ourselves to really connect with each other and to really be the core of the Jewish people. The core of the Jewish people are the women. Of course we need men too. We have that partnership of masculine, feminine. But the way that we've gained currency in the last 30, 50 years is by being more masculine. We can earn just as well as they can. And we're just as smart as they are. And we can learn just as much as them. And we can be men just as well as men can be men. And then nobody's left being a female. Nobody's left being women. Like really creating the connections. Really and that's in the non-Jewish communities too. Look at the whole country, our whole moral compass. Like where is it going? Forget what is a woman, which I did not see, but I'm curious to see. But what is a woman? You know, so a woman is that one that develops the internal dimension. So that, and men can too, we all have masculine and feminine energy. But it's the development of the internal dimension that is so vital. So one of the branches of core is developing that internal dimension of female, I'll call them pillars, not leaders. A 2-year training program for women to become pastoral counselors and mashpiyot mentors. It's MMC, mashpiyah mentor counselor. But they are developing a core presence in a community, but within themselves to be able to be a pillar. And from that place of rootedness, give to others and provide Torah guidance. So I want to tie that into a Tomer Devorah skill. Tomer Devorah is a book written by Rabbi Moshe Cardavero, a Kabbalist in Sfat, many centuries ago. And he wrote about the 13 attributes of mercy of God. And those Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim, if God has them and we're created in God's image, we have them too. So we could study those 13, and those are the ones that, you know, we say on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum, V'chanim, that whole thing, those are the Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim. So the book Tomer Devorah goes through all 13 and talks about what they are and how we can learn about God more by learning about his character, so to speak, and how we can learn about ourselves because we can emulate that. So those 13, I'm going to tell you about 3 of them. And the first one is Hashem is who Hashem is no matter what. What we learn from that, and the book Tomer Devorah tells us, how can we learn about God, how do we emulate it, and what does it mean? I'm going to paraphrase in very today language. Basically what that attribute is Hashem is the same Hashem before we sin and after we sin. Our behavior does not affect Hashem at all. Which means that Hashem loves us no matter what. Hashem's love is not diminished if we do stupid stuff or bad stuff. And Hashem's love is not actually increased. Hashem loves us no matter how we behave. We can also be like that and just say, I love you no matter what. So many times somebody will pick me up in their car and there's Cheerios here and I have to move the thing up or whatever it is. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, my car's like messy, whatever. I'm like, I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what, right? I love you no matter how you dress. I love you no matter what your house looks like. I love you no matter how you keep Shabbos. I love you no matter who you love. Right? I love you no matter what. I'm trying to be like Hashem. I will find something in you to love no matter what. I love you no matter what. That's the Tomer Devorah on that. But the Torat Eliza on that is, I realize there's something deeper underneath that, and it's the root of all self-esteem. What is the sentence that Hashem must be saying to Hashem's self in order to say, I love you no matter what? In order to be unchanged by how we behave so that he could love us no matter what? Basically, Hashem's saying, who I am has nothing to do with how you behave. Who I am has nothing to do with how you are. Who I am has nothing to do with what you think about me. Likes, dislikes, fashion, not fashion. Who I am is rooted in who I am. Hashem can feel that way, and so can we. We can be pillars of consciousness of who I am. And from that place, not be swayed to do things that we don't want to do. Of course, we have to anchor ourselves deeply in who I am. But that's the importance of learning Torah and deeply anchoring yourself in who are we as women? Who are we as Jews? Who are we in partnership with each other? How can I say who I am is so solid that I can love you no matter what? I can. I can love you because it's not threatening me. My identity is not threatened by how you behave at all. I can love you no matter what. So that's what I'm trying to develop in the MMCs, the Mashpia mentor counselors, is somebody who can really meet you where you are and love you how you are and set that example in our communities and provide the guidance so other people can feel that in their families. The next Tomer Devorah skill that I want to share with you is Chafetz Chesed. Hashem has a collection. And I was thinking about looking at this gorgeous house with all the collections. We collect what we care about. Or what our father brought us, right? All the elephants that are here. I have a small elephant collection. A small one, that's why I noticed them. I have a small elephant collection because I have a son who died. And then I read right away, shortly after he died, he was 19. It was right before the Beis Yaakov graduation. And I had already told the family they can stay with us for graduation. So I cleaned the room and made it all guesty and girly and apologized to the neshama of my son. Like, I'm really sorry. I'm making your room all guesty and girly. Well, like, if you wanted it to look the way you wanted it, you should have stayed here and not left. Somebody said, you're the only one who could do love and logic with a dead child, Elisa. Well, yes, I can. Anyway, so I was discussing with him.
I was going to say, Elisa's the only one that can say that.
So I was discussing with him about it. And I was thinking, poor kid. Like, he's 19 years old, and now he's not in his room, and now I'm putting a beautiful teenage girl in his bedroom overnight. Yep, and he's not there. So all this going through my mind at that time. Anyway, it's the elephant room, because there's an elephant in the room, right? And you don't want to tell a guest that they're sleeping in your dead child's room. So we just call it the elephant room, because there's an elephant. So we just don't discuss it. But now I have elephants in there. So I have a whole elephant collection in that room. Little elephants there. There's an elephant sheets and an elephant. Now it's my office, so I just have the elephant tchotchkes around. But that's the elephant room. So, and then when somebody heard that I had it, I have a beautiful picture of a little girl. Somebody sent me a beautiful picture of a little girl hugging an elephant from behind. Like, I think it was probably a circus picture. Old, like 1920s picture of a girl just hugging an actual real elephant sitting there. And it's just so weird, like thinking about the elephant room that it is. I love that, like embrace of the elephant in that one. So collections. So we collect things that are important to us or things that we love. And it turns out Hashem has a collection. And that's the sixth skill of the Tomer Dvorah Midos Harachmim. That's Hashem's Chafetz Chesed. He loves Chesed and he collects it. Now this book is a Kabbalistic book, so it tells a little bit of the story of how Hashem collects the Chesed of the Jewish people. And he actually has a Chesed museum. And he has an angelic curator. Doesn't use the word curator, but does use the word angelic. He has an angelic curator that brings out the Chesed collection when Hashem gets mad. Because it's Midos Harachim, right? So Hashem has this technique. When I get angry, Hashem says, I want to see the good the Jews do. Before I pass judgment, bring out the good stuff. Let me review it. So he has a whole Chesed collection, whatever the Jews have done, so that he can assuage his anger before he passes judgment on us. So I use that in my life, dealing with my children who gave me many challenges. And I put cute pictures of my kids on the fridge. So I can remember that's the kid I love. Well, even when I'm having a hard time with that one, that one's giving me a hard time, but it's actually that child. And that child is so cute and delicious. How could I not love that child? Like Chafetz Chesed, we need to collect. And then I started my Chesed collection actually back in the day when I actually did it like this, right? Instead of like that, right? Because that's how you took pictures back in the day. So whatever, and I just did it in the air. Like every time I would see an older child reading to a younger child or helping them tie their shoes or whatever it is, I'm like, that's going to my Chesed collection. And I just started to collect the Chesed of the members in the family so that I would have a Chesed collection so that it would be available to me to see what's good in each person so that I would have that when I'm frustrated. So for that, I have another collection for Hashem. I collect people. I collect women. I collect women that serve the Jewish people. And I have a few different collections. I have a collection of Kala teachers, and I have a collection of Hebrew Kadisha women. If anybody's on the Hebrew, I have a beautiful Hebrew Kadisha collection, 300 women from 10 countries. Are you in it? Are you in it? Hebrew Kadisha collection.
She just came from Ottawa.
Yes. No, I'm saying, are you in the Hebrew Kadisha community, the Chorus Hebrew Kadisha community?
I watch it once in a while, but not so much.
Kind of just so we put together. So CORE collects the women together to create a community of practice and then provides professional development. So there's like Kavana deepening or a place to process. I just started a new community of practice, a new collection of women who do death and bereavement support, death and bereavement supporters. So women who run organizations or women who are those people. Either they run an organization for death and bereavement support, or, and I'm just saying this so you can like connect me with people, whoever it is, or it's that person in the community who had 2 stillbirths or 6 miscarriages or whatever, and she's the one who goes to the hospital with you when you're about to have a miscarriage. You know, everybody knows her. They call Shoshi when whatever, right? So that woman who is that in your community, she's also invited into this community, death and bereavement supporters. And that's a place for the death and bereavement supporters to process their own feelings or share books or have a class about death and bereavement support. So we collect what we value. I value women who serve Jews. So I have a lot of collections. Have some fun ones. Just all kinds of different conversations around the world. But I do value that. And then there's us, right? How do we reweave the social fabric of the Jewish people? I think in-person meetings like this are so important. And this is not just to hear a class, it's to talk to each other. It's so important. Like the snacks are not there just to be yummy, and they are yummy, and not just to be gracious, and it is gracious. It's meant to facilitate conversation, right? A lot of you have to run afterwards, but whoever could stay here, take a snack or not, but stand and talk to somebody. Maybe somebody you don't know would be so nice. Or somebody you do know, ask them a question about something you don't know about them. Like we want to deepen our relationships. We should go to a place that is safely vulnerable. A little more vulnerable, safe, but it's not. I want to create supportive groups. Not necessarily support groups, but supportive. And you can only be supportive when you share a little more, right? When we open up a little bit more, and when we're confident in who we are, when we know that our core is secure, then we could share a little bit more with somebody else, ask for help or share help. It's so vital. I think about Moshe Rabbeinu on the mountain, standing there with Amalek fighting below, and the Jews and Amalek fighting below, and he has to stand like this in order to win, right? So how hard is it to stand like this? Everybody's tried it, and nobody can manage for very long. So his arms start going down, and they start to lose, and back up again, right? And then they start to, and down, and the Jews start to lose, and back up again. And the Jews are winning, up and down. And finally, Hor and Aaron see what's going on, and they say, oh my gosh, look at Moshe Rabbeinu. He's got to keep his arms up. He's having a hard time. You know what we're going to do? First, we'll make him a little comfortable. Let's give him a rock to sit on. Bring him down a little bit. Just the arms have to be up, not his head, right? And then we'll each take him out. We'll hold his arms for him. Which shows that everybody, even Moshe Rabbeinu, even the best leader, needs a friend on either side in order to accomplish the mission, right? And he didn't even say, guys, I need a hand. No, his friends saw it and stepped up and supported him. And when they did, the pasuk says, "V'yadav emunah," and his hands, his arms were emunah. Emunah means steady, functional. It's working, right? That's what living emunah is: steady, functional. It's working. And just as the rabbi spoke about this morning, how we have this opening up of the relationship and the closing of the relationship, and it's difficult. We have these birth pangs. You know, we move through these different stages of winter in our relationship with Hashem and summer in relationship with Hashem. A little fall, a little spring, it's so hopeful, and we could move back into crumpledness and then openness, and that's part of it. But what's steady, what could be steady underneath is maybe not the chumminess, but then I'm in the relationship. I'm in it, and relationships have hard parts. Relationships with Hashem, relationship with ourselves, relationship, of course, with a spouse, with a child, with a parent-in-law, parent, whatever. We have challenges. Relationship with each other, and I don't just mean as neighbors. I mean like relationship with the Jewish people. Like sometimes it's really hard, and we're like, those, whatever kinds of Jews those are, right? Whatever, and we can feel like we want to cut off a certain group of them. And they're still us. I was going to tell your husband, Penny, this story about Shalom Rabinowitz, I think that's his name, in Poland. In the mid-1800s, he was a writer, and he wrote in Yiddish. But his father was a Hebrew Revivalist. The Hebrew Revivalists were the intellectual, secular elite in Poland who felt like they wanted to discuss important intellectual topics, but Polish wasn't a language that had like a good intellectual structure to discuss it in. So they thought, what language shall we discuss? What language shall our chat rooms have as we have these discussions with each other? How about German? That's the language of science, which it was in the mid-1800s. And we thought, no, we actually have our own language. How about with Hebrew? Well, let's revive Hebrew and have our deep, important conversations in Hebrew. Those were the Hebrew Revivalists. Now, Mr. Rabinowitz had his son, Kid Rabinowitz, who liked Yiddish. He liked writing in Yiddish. And he liked writing interesting stories in Yiddish. And he wrote lots of stories in Yiddish. In fact, he was compared to Mark Twain, who at the same time was writing in the United States, who wrote in many different dialects of the United States backcountry language. He captured the flavor of communities in the language he was using. And the same thing with Shalom Rabinowitz, was capturing the folksiness of what was going on by writing in Yiddish. But he knew it would be an embarrassment to his parents to be published, because his parents were all about Hebrew and he was all about Yiddish. So backwards street language or elevated important language. So he didn't want to embarrass his parents, so he published under a pseudonym. Who knows what his pseudonym was? Shalom Aleichem, that's right. Shalom Aleichem. And I was thinking, and it's so interesting, like we have generations of kids who embarrass parents and parents who coerce children, and I'm like, that's part of who we are. And just to embrace that, like here we have Shalom Aleichem that everybody embraces today, but we have continuity even within the challenges, even within the children who embarrass parents and parents who coerce children, and a nation that we have a hard time being a part of and that we love being a part of all at the same time. Like here we are in the mess of it, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous to be part of a people that is so diverse and so us, right? And it's us that holds it together. And that's what I want to think about, the redemption that's available. Here we are in the 9 days. We don't even know what we're missing. We're missing a Beit HaMikdash that we can't even cry tears about because we don't know what it was. But you know what we're missing? It's like that little girl crying on my lap. She's crying because she's missing something and she doesn't want what it is. And what we don't want is all this separation. And we don't want all this condescension. And we don't want all these families falling apart. And we don't want all these communities not being nice to each other. We know we don't like that, but we don't even know that. Why? It's because we don't have a Beit HaMikdash. So I was just talking about that to a friend of mine. I used to have a very hard time saying Chadesh Yameinu Kakedim. Renew our days as in days of old, because the days of old weren't that hot. That's the truth. So I told her, I'd confess, I said, I used to actually tack on to that. Chadesh Yameinu Kakedim Vefilu Yuter Tov. She's like, oh, look at you improving the language of the Anshe Knesset Hagadolah. I'm like, well, I said, I have a hard time. Like, I want to go forward to what could be. So I explained that to somebody, and I finally got resolution because Chadesh, renew our days as in days of Kedem. Kedem is one of those unique words. We have amazing words in Hebrew, and sometimes they mean the opposite. Like Kedem. Kedem means old, and Kedem means Kedima, forward. Right? So you can have in mind, I was able to shift my kavana to Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Renew our days the way they're supposed to be, right? Like that. We don't even know like what we need, but we need that. And how are we going to get there? We say, Rabbi Yameinu. So I learned from one of my important teachers, Tila Yeager, was very foundational in my life. She said, Rabbi Yameinu, speedily in our days, yeah, for sure, speedily in our days. But that could mean also with our days. Every single day that we live, how we live it. The kindness, the inclusion, the connection, the pillarship that we display, the connection that we have, the creating a space for another to flourish in, the I love you no matter what, every one of those days, please Hashem, build the Beit HaMikdash with those days that we make. We have the capacity to make our days into what builds that future. So we want to strengthen who we are and strengthen the core of the Jewish people by strengthening the women in this community to work in partnership with the men, not to be them, to be us. And I'm not saying we can't have different roles, but I'm saying let's see what's feminine and strengthen ourselves to hold the feminine capacity of connection and building and depth so that we could see the rebuilding of what we need to quiet the tears and build something strong with each and every one of our days. Bezrat Hashem. So. Of course, there's a million other things. We can ask any questions if you want. That's what we got today. Okay, good. Okay, please turn to before you get up, turn to somebody next to you and maybe share one thought with them. And then we'll get up and eat something.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
So, again, you said it towards the end of your talk, and that is the good old days may not have been so good at all, right? At the beginning of your talk, you talked about the changing role of women. And I don't want to spend, the time romanticizing or idealizing women that were at home, but were not content or happy or fulfilled.
I'm not saying women should stay home.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying women should be the home. Let me just.
But I think, but I'm hearing you, but it's impossible, I think, in these times, right, for women to not send that message to daughters, daughter-in-laws, granddaughters.
I'm not saying women should be at home. I'm saying they should be the home.
But you're appreciating the difficulty, and maybe that's how they work.
It's hard.
Can't be all things to all people.
You cannot. So you do have to think about it.
Exactly.
You cannot.
Okay, so it's great.
You cannot. So somebody just told. I think Debbie Greenblatt quoted the Maharal, who talked about the difference between Mikdash and Mishkan, and that we need to move to a Mishkan model. So the Mikdash, and our home is a Mikdash Ma'at, it's here and stationary. But the Mishkan is not. The Mishkan moves with us. So, and V'asili Mikdash v'shachanti b'tochem. So it's about make for me a holy space and I'll live within you. But actually we need that movement too. Like we're not putting that genie back in the bottle. We're not moving that. I don't want to admit, we had lovely days. Were they good? Were they not good? Were they hard? Were they not hard? They were. We're not going back. But what I'm saying is, as women, we do need to say our role is to develop the inner core of the Jewish people. of our marriages, of ourselves, of our marriages, of our families, of our communities. And it's something that we do uniquely, but we can only do it if we choose it, if we know about it and if we choose it. So we can't do it. So I'm not saying stay home and raise all your babies, although I do tell a lot of moms that when they're so frazzled, like, let's look at your finances and see how could you make a shift here. You get one shot at those toddlers. Like, so I would help a mother try to figure that out, or reduce hours, or think about how she could be more connected. But to make a choice of connection on a regular basis, I think it's so vital for us. So I just want us to be more conscious, right? I want us to be more conscious about what we could do, right? To collect what we love, to stand in that I love you no matter what. And oh, I forgot, the other one is L'Sherit Nachla Tov. That's the, I forgot to talk about that one. But whatever, that every one of us is every one of us. And to really love each other, really love each other. So, okay, thank you.